Yeah, thanks for being here. I know all of your calendars are brutal, so we'll keep this tight and get you out on time. Today, we'll cover Contentstack's Agentic Experience Platform, AXP, along with Agent OS. We'll talk about how our platform is helping organizations like yours drive smarter digital operations. Um, my name is Ashish. I run product and technical marketing here at Contentstack. I'm joined by John Kelly, who leads product management. Here's how the next 45 minutes goes. I'll set up the problem and the platform. John will show you the product actually running, and then we'll leave some real time at the end for you to ask any questions. So at any point during our session, feel free to add questions in the chat or directly in the Q&A section of the window. So what we're going to cover today, here's the shape of it. First, the problem. And I'll be honest, it's not the problem most people name. Then the platform underneath it. And after that, we'll spend the bulk of our time in the live product because we'd rather show you the thing working than talk about it. And we'll close with talk about a customer running this in production right now, and some time for Q&A at the end. All right. So let me start with something you already know. AI is in your stack. It showed up maybe last year, maybe earlier, and most of you have it sitting in content or marketing ops by now. So, but here's what nobody puts on a slide. For a lot of teams, AI has actually created more work, not less. More output to review, copy that drifts off brand, cleanup that didn't exist before. And the easy reaction is to blame the model, to decide it's just not smart enough. We don't buy that. The intelligence was never the problem, the grounding was. So a generic model doesn't know your content model. It has no idea who your audience is or what your brand is allowed to sound like. So you get output that's fluent and confidently wrong, and a person has to catch it every single time. So that's really the gap. So the formula on the screen is how we close it. Agents on their own just hallucinate faster. Wrap content, context, and brand around them, and you get intentional action instead of a bigger review pile. So we don't want to just talk about theory. This is actually live in production today. So before we show you a single feature, we want to talk about one number. Golf Breaks runs Agent OS in production today. They cut manual content review by 73 to 83% across more than 2,000 venue listings. And we'll come back at the end of this session to talk about their specific use case. For now, just hold on to one thought. This is real, it's shipping, and everything else we say today sits on top of customers like Golf Breaks. So let's talk about AXP, which is our Agentic Experience Platform. Because some of you will want to know what's underneath before we first get to Agent OS. So legacy CMS and DXP were built for one job, a human operating a tool. So content sat in silos and changes waited in a queue. So that holds up fine when people do all the work, but it falls apart the moment you want agents doing some of it. So we built something different. An architecture of action, 3 systems natively connected. Content Cloud is your source of truth. Data Cloud is the live context of who the customer is and what's happening right now. And Agent OS is the layer that does the work. The thing to take from this slide is that it's one platform, not 3 products you stitch together and hope they hold. So that is the Contentstack Agentic Experience Platform, AXP. One line on this one. We believe this is the only agentic DXP built for the AI era, not a legacy platform with an AI feature stapled on. So that's the claim. And the rest of today is us backing it up. So why Agent OS? Let's dig into that. So let me, if I can work slides properly. This is the question we get most. A lot of you already have picked your AI tool. Maybe it's Claude, maybe it's Copilot, maybe it's Gemini. Good, keep it. We're not here to rip and replace that out. Here's how we fit whatever posture you're already in. If you want to bring your own model, our MCP servers let it run against your Contentstack content, governed and inside your guardrails. If you'd rather use what's native to our platform, Agent OS has agents built right in with brand controls and access to infrastructure no outside tool can reach. And plenty of teams run both at once with no conflict, same content foundation underneath. And the reason this works is one stat. We expose 99.5% of our platform through public APIs. An outside model can do more against Contentstack than against anyone else in this category. So if you've got engineers in the room, this slide is for them. The fair question is, why not just point Claude at our MCP servers and call it a day? Honestly, if you're doing that, you're ahead of most teams. But there's actually a line outside. There's a line an outside harness can't cross. Agent OS reaches infrastructure we don't expose over the API, like Elasticsearch. It runs bulk actions at privileged rate limits. It keeps a full audit trail of everything in Agent Touch. That last part, it lands harder than it sounds. The first time an agent acts on production content, your legal and security people are going to ask who did what, when, and on whose authority. So Agent OS answers that cleanly, and a bring your own setup usually can't. So if you're business led and that just got technical, here's the short version. Going native gets your governance and visibility, gets you governance and visibility you can't buy from the outside. All right. So here's what I want you to know about Agent OS. Here's what you get. Here's the whole engine on one slide. 4 building blocks. First, Polaris, the conversational companion. Second, custom agents you build yourself. Third, automations for predictable, deterministic workflows. And then Agent Accelerator to get you and your team moving fast. So all of this is orchestrated with brand and customer context built in. So the most important part is the line at the bottom where it says scale AI safely and predictably with 0 success tax. So we don't want you to get hit with a surprise bill the moment your agents start doing real work. You want something that's predictable, that can help you get across the line and get your work done faster. And that's what we've built with Agent OS. So 2 specific call outs. First is Brand Kit. Brand Kit really is the governor. It's not a style guide rotting in a PDF nobody opens. It's a machine readable rules kind of framing that the AI has to follow while it writes, plus a knowledge vault that grounds the model in your real and current facts about you and your brand. The second thing I want to touch on today is Polaris. This is our conversational platform companion. It turns complex multi-step operations and deep data filtering into plain natural language. So a business user asks for what they need, and it happens. But the point to stress with security conscious users is this last one. Polaris is permission aware. It operates strictly inside role-based access controls. It will never surface data or run a task a user couldn't do manually. You're not opening a backdoor. You're giving people a faster front door. So put these 2 together and you get AI that behaves like your best operator who already knows the rules. So enough for me. We're going to now transition to the demo. But just to frame the demo for us, while John gets set up here with the demo, what you're about to watch is really natural, ordinary tasks that you have to navigate as you run your digital operations. And this is the kind of thing that your team runs a dozen times a day, right? So watch how few steps it takes and watch closely for the thing it refuses to do. John, I'm going to hand things over to you to demo, and I'll get off stage here.
Awesome. Thanks, Ashish. All righty. Yeah, let's get into it here. So I have Contentstack pulled up. This is basically our entry list page. Let's see, can everyone hear me okay? Okay, I think so. So we're gonna pop open Polaris here. So named after the North Star So that's basically it's your friendly neighborhood kind of in-app assistant here. So there's a variety of things and tasks people have to do kind of every day. We're going to just start with kind of like a from scratch creation task. So I have some notes just from a note-taking app that I was taking when I was sort of traveling to this resort called Red Panda. It's basically our fictitious resort in the Maldives. I'm just going to go ahead and upload that as a document. It could be a PDF, could be even referencing a Google Doc or using some other kind of like notes that were called even like a campaign brief that you want to upload from here. And so you don't have to see me kind of typing. I'm going to go ahead and just like copy over a prompt as well. Of course, I could type this out, but I'm basically just saying, here are my notes from a trip I took. Let's go ahead and turn this into an article, give it a name for the article. And of course, we want to use our brand kit for this, brand kit being sort of semantic sort of knowledge vault and layer as a reference point to help augment the RAG pipeline, so the retrieval augment generation pipeline that we do have in the background, and then a voice profile I've already selected here. It's just going to use kind of the default brand voice profile to nudge my response to sound like a member of me or my team. And of course, I do want the AI to just like let me know kind of what's missing, if there's anything that's actually missing still that is a required field, so that I may not be able to publish this. And that's a pretty helpful thing to note as well. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. What it's going to do is it's going to talk to our harness. So fundamentally, Polaris itself is an interface to the Agent OS harness. The Agent OS harness is basically built sort of system prompting and privileged access to the various backend services. So you're not going to be impacted by like rate limiting, for example. So if you're going to use a third-party harness like Cloud Code or Codex or something else, or build one yourself, of course, you would still be, of course, subject to your organization's kind of rate limits for content management operations and other things like that. This all kind of operates in the background, and so has a very privileged access to all those things. So you don't have to worry about any kind of collisions or issues there from a consumption or compute perspective. It also does have a variety of kind of inbuilt skills. We're going to be introducing and rolling out the ability to do kind of add custom skills, for example, to this. But it does come with a variety of things that are inbuilt. So it is already an expert, of course, in using Contentstack. So you can see that as it's thinking, it's going through finding the brand kit that I asked it to use. Of course, finding the voice profile I asked it to use. It's going to go through and check the article content type, and then go ahead and build that content and alert me if there's anything that I need to pay attention to. Awesome. Again, this is drafting in my voice, the voice of my brands. If we do have some time today, I can go into BrandKit a little bit and kind of show around. But once again, that is basically our semantic. It's a vector database, so semantically storing and encoding information about my brand that is automatically updated over time as I'm publishing things and republishing things. And basically, the voice profile is just kind of that concentric context that makes up anyone's interaction with AI. So it could be basically, let me go ahead and create. So we do have some prompts along the way. So human in the loop type stuff. You will notice on the left here that my entry list page did refresh in the background, and we now have our entry that was created, and it's going to go ahead and just do some last minute checks on that for the remainder of my prompt. Yeah, so those voice profiles are just kind of that concentric context. So answering questions like, who am I? What am I working on? What's my team do? What's my department do? What's my job? What does my company do? In addition to that sort of semantic retrieval. So good. Sounds like, looks like the entry was created. Looks like it did use our brand kit as instructed. And it's going to tell me, hey, there's still some required fields here. I'm actually going to go to the entry. And it will also link to the visual builder. Sometimes that pops up as well. Sometimes it doesn't, but we're going to get that, make sure that happens more predictably here. But I'm going to go ahead and open this entry in the visual experience builder here. So that's kind of our sort of immersive content creation engine. So I can step in and actually modify the content directly. I'm going to go ahead and, as it mentioned, banner image is missing. So I'm going to go ahead and add that one quickly. From here, I do have a variety of things. I can also nudge it sort of in the using Polaris itself. But I am going to go ahead and just kind of use the one that was already in the asset manager, because it can go ahead and use the semantic search to find assets. But I will open up that chat one more time. And cool. And we're going to go ahead and say, let's see, our next prompt here. And Ashish, if there are any questions that come in that we need to interrupt, that's totally fine. Cool. I actually want to localize this now. So localize this into French. And you'll notice that we do have some additional locales. So it will check to make sure there is a French locale. It's going to go ahead and take that content, do that localization as well, and basically carry over this content. I realized I didn't save the entry, so it may not carry over that image, but at the very least, it should carry over the content, since that was created here. But we'll see kind of how it runs. So again, it's going to go through and inheriting some of the earlier prompts that I had used, ensuring it's using the requisite brand kit, ensuring that it's aligned to the way that we're trying to create this content, and it's going to go ahead and if there's any special language instructions as well. So BrandKit actually has a language instruction set, so you can actually add that specifically. It'll look for that and see if it needs to sort of orient the translation for any particular locale, if that was requested or detailed in the BrandKit itself. Cool. Now, while this is creating, of course, we could continue on and go through and create some variants, because, of course, we do have the ability to create variations of any entry in any language, and those are used for personalization, for example. I can tap into our Data Cloud Lytic CDP as well, so I can ask it questions about any segments and help to sort of, it can make some recommendations on the actual alignment of like an audience and the attributes of that audience for a particular piece of content. So that's actually a really helpful, just collaborative engine here to sort of continually moving from this sort of seed of content, which was like my notes from a trip I took, into a base entry, into locales, into variants on that, and to subsequently do some like targeting if I want to promote that content to specific audiences or groups of individuals. Looks like that was now created, which is awesome. So let's go ahead and check our French locale. So I'll save it. So I didn't save when I uploaded the image, so it may not carry over. Oh, it did carry over to French. Awesome. So it actually carried over that image to the French locale. It may have just inherited from the base, but then it actually did translate the content here, as we can see. Very cool. So I'm going to go ahead and looks like that was already saved as well, which is awesome. I'm going to pop back into kind of entry list page, and I'm actually just going to go ahead and do a new check. I do want to show some other operations, types of things that it can actually do here. So I'm just going to go ahead and do like a find and replace. So we do have some, notably from a roadmap perspective, do have some additional updates coming in with like a first class kind of find and replace within the content management or within the CMS, using some of the CMA properties and some new APIs there for find and replace within the UI. But the AI actually is pretty decent at this job as well. It's a little bit slower, but of course it does actually work. So I can say find the word piece, for example. I think that exists a few places in the stack, and replace with the word Yosemite. Cool. So what this is going to do, since Polaris does have access to the Elasticsearch in the background, it can actually go through, do some keyword searching, and then sort of has some amount of memory to hang on to that information, and then actually replace those sort of inline institu with the word I'm asking for. So just showcasing the types of operations that you could get done using Polaris primarily. And over time, these use cases and the harness itself will be refined and kind of built out, and we do foresee kind of Polaris being really your kind of everyday driver for doing a lot of the content operations within the stack itself. In addition to that, and we'll get into this here in a minute, is the concept of like, there we go, found one, of like custom agents. And so we're going to look at one of those here in a moment and basically see what you can do with a custom agent, and basically, give that as a sense, almost to run as like a routine. So, we're moving into additional layers of abstraction, right? So there was all the manual clicking around and processing. Now we're moving into greater levels of agentic experiences and agentic automations. And then even above that would be the ability for routines and custom agents to actually sort of programmatically, or whenever you invoke them, to run and spiderweb into a series of additional agents or sub-agents to tackle sequentially and comprehensively more complex tasks over time here. So great. Looks like this word, botanical, those facials, it did have the word peace. I've now replaced it with the word serenity, and it was probably just somewhere in the, I do see it was here. So it didn't quite highlight it, but I know that's kind of where it actually was, and the version now is incremented. I'm going to do one last thing, because I do want to show, once this does run, I'm just going to go ahead and publish this entry that I had created. And oh, right, banner image, let's see. Grab this. I guess I didn't save that before, as I mentioned. Cool. And we're going to go ahead and, what's going on? Dimension error. I'm not sure what's happening with that particular item, but we're going to go ahead and I'll just publish the that little entry that I had here before, that I did a update for the find and replace. Why that's useful is it's going to do a couple things in the background. I do have some custom agents kind of running, and I'm going to show you what that looks like here in a moment. Awesome. I'm going to move into Agent OS itself. And so you'll notice that we do have a new icon for Agent OS. It has replaced Automate. So Automate has now been subsumed by Agent OS. And so we do have our automations here inside of Agent OS projects. We do have our agents running as well. So within agents, we do have the ability to create new agents, and that could be a from scratch agent. This is just like a natural language sort of field where you can just type in what you're looking for, and it will do its best to sort of scaffold out what that agent looks like. We also have like templating as well. So we have a variety of templates you can use that are pretty awesome to just sort of like bootstrap your way into some interesting use cases here. So for example, if I were to use this template for the content compliance checker, you'll notice a few things that may look familiar for anyone who's actually used Automate before. So the custom agent builder is actually kind of built on some of the foundations of Automate itself. So an agent, just to state somewhat the obvious, is basically just a reasoning model with the ability to call tools, to make tool calls. A tool call is basically just like a way to invoke any sort of execution over the web, typically over the web, but also, of course, could be locally if you're using Cloud Code locally, running Bash, grep, those kinds of things. But basically, it's the ability to call a tool that has access to within its tool chain. A tool for typically any service on the web is just going to be like some kind of web request. And so in this case, it is actually using the Automate actions and triggers as its tool calls. And so it was built on top of that foundation. So we do have the ability to invoke custom agents using the Automate triggers and using, of course, the tool calls within the underlying automation platform itself. So when I pop open a template, we do have the ability to just customize these instructions if we need to. And of course, I have the ability to basically do all my prompting or do all my selections for how I want the different actions to behave. So I'm going to go ahead and just actually do a quick authorize on this. I do want to show you just one thing. We're not going to go into all the details here, but basically, we do have a few options here. So if you do want to kind of let AI take the wheel on the custom agent itself, it totally can do that. So that's kind of like, at the highest level, sort of, widening the aperture to be as sort of semi-deterministic or as non-deterministic as the instructions will allow it to be. If you want to kind of narrow its focus a bit, you do have the ability to add some custom data elements. And so, for example, if I wanted to limit, which brand kit to be used, or how that brand kit actually is going to be instructed, or for example, which Slack channel to use. Of course, I could have kind of AI take the wheel there, or I could just give it a specific Slack channel that I want it to send a note to. So it's not kind of just guessing at which Slack channel I want it to be. So it's a way to sort of add some rules and some guardrails into the way that the agent is going to think. And so in most cases, you'll probably just want to let it kind of use its inference to make the best determination. But there are definitely cases where you would want to ensure that it is on rails, such as like selecting a specific Slack channel, and then just like let the AI do the rest of the selections for what to say, how to use the data it's added to. Awesome. So I did want to see if there was one other thing that I could show here, and it did run in the background. So I'm going to go ahead and reshare my screen. Cool. And just really quickly, so we can see here, I did republish that sort of botanical bliss facials entry just a couple of minutes ago, and I basically gave it. It's running on a custom agent here. So what that agent is doing is the content promotion generator. So basically, on entry publish, it has a series of instructions to create some promotional content for things like LinkedIn and X and other types of areas, and send that message to a defined Slack channel. So basically, that's going to be this content it created and sent me these details right here in a Slack channel. So kind of a nice little update where it is going one level deeper than just kind of a very statically derived kind of automation. While it is on Rails in the sense that it knows the Slack channel to send to, it knows when to trigger itself, but then everything that happens in the middle is kind of left to the agent to figure out. So think of it as almost like Google Maps, where you know where you are, you know your destination, but you don't really know the route, and so you're kind of letting AI take the wheel and figure out the best route to get you there. Awesome. And then the very last thing I do want to show here is a new experience that we have built for our customers and built for really anyone who's interested in building with AI. It is basically our Contentstack developer portal. So the URL here is developers.contentstack.com, and you'll find it in the build with AI kind of route. And we will include these materials for you as well. But basically, you have a variety of things and resources that are available to you. So for example, we do have our Vibe docs, for example. These are all libraries that you would be able to copy and install into your project. These are basically our documentation, but highly optimized for working with AI. So being able to sort of like teach your agent how to use Contentstack. We also have an agent skills repository. So of course you can find this here, copy it into your projects, or let it run adjacent to your project and just give Claude Code a pointer to it as well. And then basically the agent skills are a variety of instructions on how to be an expert in Contentstack, how to do certain things, sort of like how to execute a specific task in a really highly optimized, highly useful way. And then lastly, we do have our MCP server as well. So a way to integrate Contentstack with third-party services, let it manage the auth for you, basically figure out how to let a third-party system or service instrument your Contentstack project. Awesome. I think that's all for me on this. Ashish, I will hand this back to you.
Awesome. Yeah, there's some great questions that have come in. We'll get to those here in just a minute. But before we do, let's talk about how Agent OS is helping customers today. I already mentioned at the top how it's helping Golf Breaks. As some of you may know, Golf Break sells golf travel, and their entire product depends on venue data being right. So thousands of properties, gym hours, spot openings, course changes, all of it is shifting constantly. And there's no single upstream source they can trust. So their team did what every team does. They reviewed everything all the time, just in case. So Agent OS changed the shape of that work because it cross-references their live entries against multiple third-party sources in the background and surfaces only what actually changed. So if a gym closed or a spot opened, the team acts on that and leaves the rest alone. So their digital product manager, Jack, said it better than I can. He called it a shift from wholesale review to targeted insight-driven updates. and a real change in how they run content operations. The headline here is 73 to 83% less manual review, but the number isn't the point. Really, it's that the work got smaller and Agent OS took a step away instead of adding one. And then the other thing we want to talk about is our experience as a Contentstack marketing org. Our own digital team was tracking site health across 4 separate tools, 4 logins, 4 dashboards, and no shared picture. So we built an agent on Agent OS that pulls all 4 sources, formats the data through our own automation, and hands back a single prioritized color-coded report. So our web product owner used to lose hours on this. Now she sees the whole picture in seconds, 2 weeks to build, start to finish. So the reason why I want to show you this slide is how you can know that we run our own content operations on Agent OS. And you can trust us when we say it works, and it's real and it's working for our customers today. So how do you actually get started? Of course, you can just jump right into Agent OS, but there's also 2 helpful doors that you can knock on and walk through depending on where you sit. The first is Agent Quick Start. This is through our Agent Accelerator program. Our implementation team will take a proven agent pattern, configure it to your content model, and get it into production in weeks, right? So fixed fee, fast, low risk. We have over 50 agent patterns that are production ready that you can work from, and many more coming. The second door with this program is the custom agent door. And this is for bigger enterprise use cases where you want discovery to set the scope and the architecture before you commit a dollar, right? So either way, you don't leave here with a trial and a good luck. You leave with a path and a team that builds it with you. If a specific workflow popped into your head during the demo, this is the exact conversation we want to have with you and your account team. All right, let's actually now hop into some Q&A, and we've had some really great questions come in. Let me start with the one in the chat. Eric asked, John, does Agent OS do these updates via the content management API or direct database updates or something else?
Yep. So it's still using our fundamentally the API surface area of the different services. It does operate kind of within our VPC, but it's not making direct like database updates. It is using the APIs for those individual services. Notably, they are kind of some privileged calls, and so they're not going to be consuming like your rate limits, for example. They're going to go ahead and use just like the credit system for the Polaris itself.
Awesome. Another question, John asked it in the chat or in the Q&A section. How do we provide our brand, style, tone, company-specific terms, acronyms, language as context? MCP server with our stuff. So I guess maybe just to double click on brand kit for a sec here.
Yeah, definitely. A couple questions there. So on the brand kit side, and in fact, Ashish, we can go off script here, but I'm happy to share my screen if that's helpful.
Yeah.
And let me just get a couple windows organized here. Okay, awesome. So I did see there was another question on like getting a demo of brand kit, so we will definitely can do a kind of 2-minute walkthrough brand kit itself. I am in a hotel, so if the Wi-Fi is a little spotty, might be a good reason to. Okay, awesome. So do have a brand kit for that sort of Red Panda Resorts area. There's a few things that you would see when you get into brand kit itself. So the original question around uploading like tone, personality, background information on the organization itself. That's going to be actually in the Knowledge Vault. So basically, Knowledge Vault is just a series of items that are stored in our vector database, and so those are embedded. We have vector embeddings generated for those. So basically, they're just like a way to sort of semantically encode and retrieve information about your organization. They can be automatically populated, and so one thing that's common with customers is they will be. So I just have like literally just like a name and then the actual plain text content there for the item. But what's popular with customers is they might go through and upon publishing of any new piece of content, add that into the knowledge vault. And then over time, you can actually call this as well. So for example, we have customers who have like some jobs running that will basically, remove items that maybe reference like something that's outdated, or even on unpublished, it can go through and like remove an item that maybe was stored kind of previously, if that item is no longer relevant to the corpus of information about your brand. Some others do have like some kind of intermediate sort of kind of independent kind of storage layer, and then that is sort of like used to accumulate information about the brand, and that is what gets programmatically moved into the brand kit itself. But however you get it there, that knowledge vault is going to be all the basically your corpus of information used as background context when interacting with Agent OS about your brand. And then voice profiles are basically just all of those kind of contexts at whatever layer you want to get. So it could be at the individual layer, it could be at the team layer, it could be like a persona that you want to use. So things like, actually I stepped in there and moved out. You have like some style mixers for kind of how you want it to represent itself, and then some like insights and like some sample content if you want to feed it as well. We do have a playground, so you can actually, as you're creating a voice profile, you can kind of like play with it in the playground and kind of see how what its output looks like, and basically use that to refine the voice before you do commit to using it.
Awesome. Thank you, John. This is a more tactical question around kind of our AI credit approach. What's the process of monthly credit allocation? Organizations get automatically credits as part of contract, or will it be a new contract? Yeah. Go ahead,
It's a
John.
good question. So every org is encouraged to, we want to make sure that we're incentivizing strong adoption usage here. So every org wants you to go through the click-through kind of acceptance within the admin screen. It's basically within the admin panel, there's like an AI section, and you can sort of configure the features as you want. Once you click through that, it will enable Polaris and the custom agents for your org. And every org gets an amount of kind of credits monthly to use as you wish, automatically included. And then if you have any legacy kind of contracts or purchases with like Automate, for example, those automation executions are going to move over and roll over into credits automatically. And then, of course, once you exceed that sort of included tier, it's kind of like an explorer tier, you can reach out and we'll get that upgraded for you.
Awesome. Another question here. Does the find and replace, and I think this was a question that came in when you were doing that specifically, John, do these updates happen via the content management API or direct database updates or something else?
Yeah, it's another one of those kind of benefits of using Agent OS or Polaris really within the CMS and within Contentstack, is that it does have some more privileged access to the backend. And so, for example, that was using it had access to the Elasticsearch container within the backend. And so actually that was using and invoking Elastic, and then basically the harness has some memory storage, so it can basically grab those terms and then basically do the second part of the job, which is the replace. So it did the find along to the instances and then did the replace afterwards. Notably, we are actively, as like right now, working on a first kind of party kind of native find and replace within the UI itself. And so within the UI of the entry list page that I was showing early on, you would have the ability to do more classical find and replace with like an actual interface for yourself. When those APIs are available starting fairly soon, then Polaris will also be able to just use those APIs, which should be a little bit faster.
Awesome. We have just a couple more minutes, so I'm going to try to get through a few of these. All right. So Lauren asks, we have a team that creates articles in our stack. Within our article content model, we allow references to different content types. Can the agent recognize these references and pull in the correct reference?
Yeah, let me just read through that again. content model or different content types. Yes, that's a good question. So Polaris itself is scoped to the individual. So it will only create content that individual themselves could create. So it basically, if different content types that are being referred from like that base entries content type have different permissions for that user, if they're assigned to a team or using some taxonomies to stratify access to those, it'll basically only be able to create things that user themselves would have access to.
Awesome. And then Lauren had another question here. We have our own style and brand guide documents and a Confluence space that houses specific style guide examples for our company. Can this program or Agent OS ingest these resources as is, or do we need to export, import in a specific way?
Yeah, so if you can, Polaris itself has kind of native access to BrandKit inside of Contentstack and the APIs for BrandKit. So there's a couple ways you could approach it. The one that I would probably recommend is because BrandKit is oriented and tailored pretty well to work nicely with Agent OS and Polaris. So what you could do is basically, BrandKit has a full suite of APIs itself. So you could actually set up a job that would basically grab your style guidelines from Confluence and import those into BrandKit itself, just so that it makes them kind of first party and within the environment of Polaris and Agent OS. Additionally, if you wanted to do a custom agent, you could actually use Polaris to invoke a custom agent, which basically then would reach out, grab that information, and use that as part of the processing. It wouldn't be like sort of semantically encoded, so it wouldn't run on like embeddings. It would just do like kind of keyword search or kind of its best job to interpret meaning behind that. Whereas BrandKit is actually a vector database, and so it does do a better job at sort of incorporating and encoding semantic meaning. So that's why I'd recommend it.
Awesome. Really quickly, I know we're coming up on time, maybe last question, but sorry, one more thing before I hand this over. Lauren, there was a question you asked about custom workflows and how you have some manual processes. We'd love to dig in with you. Just talk to your account manager and we can get a conversation scheduled and make sure that you're helped on those kind of complex use cases that you outlined in the question. All right, last question for you. Let me pin this on screen. John, fun one. How will the agent behave if content governance is enabled, including publish rules?
Yep, it's same as the previous answer around different references to different content types. It basically will utilize and piggyback on the permissions of the individual. So what the person who's invoking Polaris can do, or the person who's invoking Polaris will only be able to ask Polaris to do what they themselves could do manually. Additionally, if there's any like publish rules or other validations, it won't be able to skip past those. And so if you remember, one of my original prompts was basically like, take these notes, create this entry, make sure to use the BrandKit, and let me know if there's any missing fields. And it basically told me like, hey, a required field is this banner image. Make sure you upload that before publishing. So I wouldn't have been able to ask it to publish. I could have created the entry, but it would not have allowed me to publish it.
Awesome. Okay, we are at time. Thank you, John, for walking through the demo and answering these questions. Audience, thank you for joining us today. We're really excited to see what you build with Agent OS. Also, next month, we will be digging in to our agent builder, specifically these custom agents that you can build for your specific use case. Thank you for your time and attention. Have a great rest of your day. We will see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.